it's going to fall 2 feet.
Right.
That's a long ways for a house to fall, right?
Sure.
Okay. So if we saw, so again, you know, to reinforce these cripple walls, it's relatively simple. It's not that expensive for the amount you can save. Okay. Now, if we look at this telephone pole here, we have 3 sets of wires. We have the very high one up there. It says high voltage on the cross arm. Then we have a set below it. And then we have a set really close down on the bottom. The 2 top ones are electricity. Those are your primaries on the very high. That's high voltage. And then below that, it's dropped down into house current and goes into your house. All right. Down below, we have all our utilities. We have our cable TV. We have our telephone wires generally there. All right. So when you're trying to figure out some of these wires, that'll give you a rough idea. Be careful though. If wires get crossed, you can have high voltage coming across your cable TV. All right. This is our gas. This is the gas shutoff here. Are you guys you all know how to shut off your gas?
You don't have to pay the PG&E, huh?
Oh no, the meter's inside. Everybody pays PG&E, right? No one's on a free ride there. So what we do to turn this off is just turn it so it's sideways. Okay, if it's in line, it's flowing.
Yeah.
All right.
Shut off the gas if you can smell it, correct?
You shut it off in 2 situations. One is if you smell gas, then you shut it off. 2 is if you look at the meter and all the dials are spinning. That means there's a gas leak, right? Okay.
What you're going to do is establish a cache of tools. Most people have a lot of the tools that we're going to use. They're going to be the hammers, a claw hammer, a wonder bar, which is a small crowbar device. Do we have one over there, Irene?
Oh, one
looks like that.
It's
Matter of
over
fact,
there.
let me have it real quick because I'll probably use that, and a hammer. And what you're going to do is you may need to use these to force entry. You're not going to force entry on a room or a house that you don't
You
suspect.
also may need to improvise.
May also-
Amazon.
No problem. You can do it. Do we want to search a room or a house that we know is empty? No. We're going to do this because it's time consuming and we want to try to cover as much area as we can. So what we're going to do is we come to a house, we know Mrs. Jones is in there. She's a little old lady. She's not part of our CERT team, but we love her anyway. And we're going to try to get into her house. What are our ways to get into a house? Doors?
Windows.
Windows. What do we know about doors? Well, they could be locked. How about front doors compared to back doors?
Double bolt.
Could be double bolted. Front doors are usually more secure than the back doors, right? Front doors are usually built better. They're usually solid oak or some solid wood versus a back door, which could be a hollow core or it could just be a lighter built door. First thing we're going to do, which I told a young firefighter that I had under my supervision when I was in Piedmont, we had a major fire. He comes up there with his axe. Firemen carry axes, and he's just chopping away. Smoke is billowing out of this door. He's got his hose sitting there, and we've got to make access to extinguish this fire. And I looked at him, I go, Scott, did you try the door? I proceeded to open the door. I said, now you can put it out. And he saved some energy. Try the door first. When we're doing our assessment around the house, we're going to check the windows. Is there a window that's unlatched? Then you can also scold the person afterwards going, don't you know that's a good way to get things stolen? So go around the house, you're doing your assessment, go around the house. Notice windows that are open, check the doors, see if they're open. Now in this case, since this is forcible entry, nothing's open. We're going to have to force entry. Now what we can do is if we have exterior mounted hinges, I don't know if everybody can see these, and I got to be careful because last week somebody got into here and the training officer's awful angry with us. But just by popping it like that, you can actually pop the pins off of the door hinge. I'm going to drive them back down now. Pop both hinges off, and then just by applying your pry bar on this side, you'll actually slide the door out from the back side, and then it'll just come out of its latch. That's one method of doing it. Another method is taking the bigger tools, even a smaller one, removing the door jamb that goes around the door, and what that's doing is covering, it's cosmetic, it's covering a gap that's usually between 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch wide where your shims are mounted to get your door all nice and plumb and straight. You pull this off, and then by applying your crowbar or your pry bar between the door and the frame that it's built on, you can actually squeeze the frame away from the door and the doorknob and the latch and actually create enough space to where you can open the door that way. Now if a deadbolt's in the way, now you're in trouble. That brings us to the third way. This is the trucker's way. Truckman is a cross between the Neanderthal man and a defensive lineman of the 49ers. And by just taking your hammer and driving with reasonable force right into the doorknob, you can usually see, and you'll see it in a slide, you can blow yourself a hole wide enough to where you can get in there, undo the deadbolt, and also knock out the working mechanism of the doorknob. So there's 3 ways of, or 4 ways, counting and opening it, of getting in. Now a window provides another opportunity to force entry. And the thing with a window is there's different types of windows. There's the old sash and weight that has the center pin on it, and sometimes just going in there and popping it at the window pane will allow you to break the window open and slide it up. I had a guy come by the other day that showed me that my house is unsafe and that I should own a security system, and he showed me that just by taking your sliders and just by lifting them up, or on the outside pushing up on them, and they'll just come right out of the frame. So there's 2 ways of doing that. But sometimes those aren't going to work, especially with little auxiliary security systems. So what you may have to do is force entry by breaking the window. When we break a window, there's a couple of things we want to do, because what's going to happen? We're going to make glass. We're going to make shards of glass. We want our long sleeve shirt, we want our gloves. I don't have any gloves. I don't have any gloves. We want our helmet on. We've got gloves. Thank you, cameraman. With our safety goggles on and our helmet on. God, I feel like one of the village people. Macho. And our gloves. Now what we're going to do is we're going to proceed to break the glass out, but we're going to do it in a systematic fashion, which is the Berkeley way, which is the way we teach everybody to break glass in the fire department. If you can imagine that this is our window pane, the chalkboard, what you want to do is work from one corner or one edge and work out. Hitting tempered glass in the center a lot of times will cause actually the object they're using to strike with to actually bounce. It's tempered. It's meant to resist shock. So you want to break it from one of the corners. Now I'm going to break it from this corner here, which will be my corner. Looking away, hand above the strike zone so that the glass doesn't travel down the handle and cause the possible injury. Striking it, I mean, really hard. I don't want to do it to this because I don't want to catch heck. But striking it real hard in the corner is going to cause it to break. Now once we do that, we're going to clear this section of the window pane out. Using your long handle tool, you can clean it out right like this. Then we're going to go along the top. Go along the top, start cleaning glass out this way. This is causing glass to fall down on the pane and down on the sill. And then we're going to work across, work down, across the opposite side, clean all that glass off. So we've cleaned near us, above us, across from us, and finally along the windowsill, so that all the glass that's on here where we're going to force entry into or help someone get out of a building, because they may be able to crawl out on their own, there won't be glass there that they might cut themselves on. So that's the final process of cleaning out the window, is on the windowsill. Now when you're stepping in or stepping out, what you want to remember is that there's going to be glass on the ground on both sides, and to be careful. And that's the way you clear out your window. First of all, we need levers. So we've got a couple, and what we're going to do is